Okay, I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of the Gardner Zoning Board of Appeals. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of March. It's going by pretty fast. All right, before we begin tonight's hearing, I'd like to go over a few of the ground rules by which this board operates under. In Gardner, 3 members of the Zoning Board of Appeals must be present to conduct a legal hearing. Applications will normally be heard in the sequence in which they appeared in the public notice. The board is under no obligation to adhere to that sequence. All hearings shall be open to the public, and no person shall be excluded unless he or she is considered to be a hindrance to the workings of the board. An applicant may appear in his or her own behalf or be represented by agent or attorney. The applicant or his or her representative shall present the case to the board. Representatives of the city shall be heard. Abutters to the property present at the hearing shall be heard. Any other interested parties present at the hearing shall be heard. Those in opposition to the application will be heard. The board must render its decision regarding variance requests within 100 days after the application was duly filed in the office of city clerk. And members of the board here in the case tonight, and we're going to move them around a little bit. I'm opening the meeting, but I'm going to turn one of the cases over to Mr. Hagelin because of a potential conflict, and then I'll come back. And the board regarding special permits must conduct a public hearing within 65 days after the application was duly filed in the office of city clerk. The board must render its decision within 90 days on a special permit after the public hearing has been closed. All 3 members of the board must vote in favor of the variance or special permit for it to be granted and approved. The right to appeal the decision of this board is provided in the Zoning Act. The information is available in the office of the city clerk. No variance or special permit or any extension, modification, or renewal thereof shall take effect until notification from the city clerk that 20 days have elapsed after the decision has been filed in that office and no appeals have been filed, and it's recorded in the Registry of Deeds. The burden for supporting the variance or special permit rests with the applicant or representative of the applicant. The board requests that each person identify himself or herself as to name and address before addressing the board. And as I was sitting right now, I'll introduce everybody. There's Randy Hagelin, Mel Cornett, Dave Antea, and myself, Ray LaFawn, as chair, so we'll be moving a little bit. The meeting will be taped. Does anyone object to the taping of this hearing? Be it known there's no objections. And the chair asks that you please silence your cell phone so they do not go off, and disrupt the course of the meeting. Okay, now I'm going to read the agenda. The agenda for tonight. First of all, any person may make a video or audio recording of the open session of a meeting and may transmit the meeting through any medium subject to reasonable requirements of the chair as to the number, placement, and operation of equipment used so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Any person intending to make such recording shall notify the chair forthwith. All documents referenced or used during the meeting must be submitted in duplicate to the clerk. All documents shall become part of the official record of the meeting. The cases we have tonight is case 1101-2022, special permit Dumitru Inakulsu, and it's a continuance. Case 010123, special permit Christine M. Tree, a continuation for 20 Graham Street. Case 0103-2023, it's a variance Jonathan Bombachi continuance for 163-169, 65 Pine Street. Case 0301-2023, special permit Alan Belanger, 0 Manka Drive. Case 03022023, special permit, Christine Tree, 48 Chapel Street. Then we will have the new business announcements and correspondence, and then any acceptance of or corrections of prior meetings to the minutes. And it's submitted by Raymond LaFawn, Chairman. Okay, let's begin the case with the first hearing. And are you gonna do the first one?
Yeah, I can do that if you want. That's fine.
And
The order tonight is going to be changed around a little bit because I have a conflict with another meeting, and I'll be stepping out at some point during this meeting, and I think the three gentlemen here will be taking over the case that will be before them. First case tonight that we're going to hear, taken out of order, is case number 2023-0103. It's for variance. It was Jonathan Bombachi for 163, 165 Pine Street. Parcel ID number R2268. And it's Jonathan Bombachi of Millennium Holding Group of 88 Main Street, Gardner, Mass. Mr. Bombachi. I know at the last meeting you went over the requirements for variance. If you want to go over quickly again. The board did have a site visit Saturday after, was it Saturday? Saturday, it's been so long. Saturday after our last hearing. Again, this is a continued public hearing. So if you want to just quickly go over the, again, for the audience and the viewers, the requirements for variance, that would be great.
Sure. So thank you for coming out and checking out the property. I know it's been a while. So basically, we had an approved parking plan by the board back in, well, geez, almost over a year ago. And then by fault of my own, I take full responsibility. The parking lot was constructed about 18 feet short of what the original design was. And so we submitted a special permit, a variance to the special permit, kind of asking for parking relief on the parcel, just so that we're able to get the property occupied. Since we did last meet, we did pass all of our final inspections, sprinkler sign off, life and safety sign off, fire panel sign off. The building is ready for occupancy. The only thing that we're waiting on is parking. I think we've had a number of applicants to the property. I think it'll fill up very quickly. I know that there's a big housing demand in the city. One thing I just want to say is, like, I think we did take one of the worst properties that we were able to find, and we did turn it into, I think, a very nice property. I know you guys were able to tour it. Hopefully you remember what it looked like when we bought it all that time ago. And then just looking to see, where we stand on the parking so we can try to make plans going forward for the residents of the building.
Okay. For the sake of the audience, I think the biggest, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bombachi, the biggest change from the original parking plan was, or is, the parking lot itself was moved in further, as you mentioned, by mistake, and in doing so required a reconfiguration of two of the spaces at the rear of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by doing that, two of the spaces had to be moved, or he proposed to move to the access, along the access driveway.
Correct.
Okay, and right now how many parking spaces? One parking space per bedroom? Is that how?
So we originally approved for 11 parking spaces for 8
Correct.
units, and that was kind of what we agreed on, where most units are going to have one, a couple units will have two. With the redesign of the parking lot, which again was completely our mistake, we tried to keep the same 11 parking spaces and had to try to move 2 spaces to the front parking space, which I think, you guys came out and you saw the site. And so, like, we were trying to keep the same amount of spaces, but relocating those spaces to the front definitely creates a change in the plan.
This past weekend or last week, I guess, we had a pretty good snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about how you handled snow removal there and how you think it would work with, the parking, as you've proposed it and the revisions.
Yeah, so parking lot's clear. It's ready to go. We have we've been showing it to potential applicants, so we didn't really have much trouble with the snow. We did have to get a loader in there to help move some of the snow up over the barrier at the end, but I mean, it was a pretty big snowstorm. And so and to the best of my knowledge, I mean, we didn't have people living in the building, and so definitely having cars there changes the snow removal play. But we didn't really have all that much trouble.
Now, where you wanted to park, if you're looking at the front side of the building, the access road on the left, I'm just visualizing the difficulty if you have two cars sitting there, how would you plow or through that road? I mean, you only have I think it was 8 foot 7 inches, whatever it was you measured,
8.7.
but that's with no snow there.
Correct.
Now, once you start putting snow in, and I don't know how close you can get to the wall, but it seems to be really limited in space. And I'm just visualizing how you'd get a plow through there.
No, and I think that's I think that is definitely a challenge with the lot in general. I mean, I think the plan would be open up the driveway, move those cars, which is the way that we do all of our lots anyways, where cars have to be moved in order for us to snowplow most of the lots that we manage in the city, just because they are packed in, relatively tight on most of the areas. We'd have to have those cars moved, push the snow down the driveway, and then empty them onto the side, get the rest of the cars moved, and then do the same. But I mean, that is pretty much the process for most of our properties here in Gardner, where we kind of have to have cooperation from the tenants and time in terms of when the snow contractors are coming through so that they can move the cars around.
But this particular one would stop you from plowing anything in the lot, or any access into the back until you remove those cars.
It would certainly be a
Especially in a storm
challenge,
like
and
this.
we would probably put smaller cars up there for that reason. I think when we were out there, we were, when we originally did like the test, we were doing it with F-150s. We can get two F-150s. The plows are smaller than the car to pass each other on that, so it would certainly be tight. But I think what we were trying to do is we try to put smaller cars there so
I
that,
thought that was gonna be buddy parking, as they call it,
yeah.
for one particular apartment.
One particular apartment would be the goal, or just two of the smaller cars, depending on how we're able to set it up.
How short were you on the, I'll say, where the parking lot was gonna be? How short are you?
We're 18 feet short.
18 feet? And
Basically the length of one parking space.
Which is basically what happened. They measured it wrong. I didn't check the plans. They came in, they dropped the blocks, and they measured it off of the house instead of the deck, was pretty much the way that happened. We had to build a new deck from when the time the plans were done to when we actually had the contractors out there, and that changed the layout a little bit. So we weren't able to save the existing fire escape. We had to rebuild a full fire escape up to the 4 floors, because that changed with new engineering plans that kind of messed up the point that they were measuring off of. But entirely our fault. We should have measured twice before dropping the blocks.
so I have a question on the plan here. Because this is the revised one. Sorry for my back, folks. What, is this the retention wall?
That's the guardrail.
That's the guardrail. Now, I've been there 2 or 3 times. This is the edge of the building, right? So you're saying the guardrail is beyond the edge of the building, and I've been there and it is not.
No, the edge of the building's way over here. So this is the edge of the building. This is where the fire escape is. So the guardrail ends prior to the edge of the building.
I wish I would have taken pictures, because I don't agree with you, because that would go straight up into the parking area.
So there's no guardrail here. The guardrail ends like right.
I know that,
there.
but what my point was, if I'm up here and I look down, I would see the edge of your guardrail if it was in line with these 2 parking spaces. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes. I mean, I'm not sure. I'd have to go and check it. One thing that we're planning to do is we were planning to regrade this section a bit. We just haven't had access. I don't think I have any photos of that view.
Mr. Bambachi, there's 4 variances, 3 conditions you have to address. Does it derogate from the intent of the ordinance? Obviously, it does in a way. You were granted a special permit for the property, and I think one of the conditions of the special permit was at least 1 space per apartment. I think that was a condition within the
1 space per apartment.
per apartment. It was the requirement of the special permit. I recognize, even during, when you were here for the special permit, that parking was gonna be a challenge on this property. So, that being said, for variance, you obviously derogates from the intent of the ordinance because you're here and it changes what you originally proposed. Does it create or aggravate a safety hazard, in your opinion, this revised parking layout?
I don't believe so. I mean, we have the insurance, already did the property inspection, we already ran the plans by them in terms of where the parking would be. They had no objection in terms of the way it's going to go. And like I said, we do have everything else signed off at this point.
Okay. One of the other conditions of a variance is related to a hardship. Soil conditions, topography, etc. Can you address that for us, please?
So the hardship at this point would be obviously a significant cost rebuilding the whole back wall, and then the delay on the timeline it would take to be able to do that. And so we're already kind of 12 months into the project, or actually more than that. So we started the project in October of last year. So we're about 18 months into the project, and having to rebuild the wall and moving it back would definitely delay our ability to put people into, the full occupancy of the building.
To that end, have you given thought to, except for what is apartment number 8, having only one vehicle per apartment?
I mean, we would certainly be open to that. I mean, I think part of us was trying to just maximize as much as we could, but I mean, the majority of the applicants we have all have 1 car. We were just doing our best to fit to what we had presented previously.
Okay, because obviously one car per apartment would meet with the requirements of the special permit.
And we'd be there if we eliminated those 2 spots. I think we'd be at we'd be at 9 spots with
Now,
1 buddy.
One of the concerns of the city engineer, and I think we read the letter at the last, at the hearing, was the width of the maneuvering aisle, and his concern, and legitimately so, that the maneuvering aisle is insufficient for,
4 of the 6 cars.
Yep.
so I think it would be for what's shown as spaces 4, 5, 6 anyway, and possibly number 3, depending upon how they get out of there. His feeling, and legitimately so, the 15-foot maneuvering aisle is really not sufficient for adequate turning around, adequate maneuvering out of the spaces.
Correct.
Okay. So the concern being spot number 7.
It would be 4, 5, and 6.
Clearly 7,
Yeah.
spot number 7
Is
impacts
restricted. Those. Yeah.
impacts those other spaces for sure.
Yep.
No, and I mean, and I think part of the plan was to kind of tie 6 and 7 together on the same apartment, and we did kind of park 2 F-150s in 6 and in 7, and did perform the turn without crossing any of the lines. But I definitely understand that not everybody is as diligent about getting out of spaces.
How many point turn was it to get a one?
I mean, I got a video of it. It was he did it slow, right?
Yeah.
But he definitely was within the lines and didn't cross
He
anything.
passed his driving test.
He does have a CSL license.
Any more questions from the board at this point?
Well, along the same lines, Randy, is that the city engineer also mentioned that the width of the access drive was from 17.7 to 8.7. I mean, that's 50% less.
Yep.
And I've been by a couple of times with the snow there, and it is very, very tight. And even where we had talked about possibly moving the cars further down, would have been very, very tight with plowing.
Plowing and even driving through. If you've got to be alert, otherwise it's going to be a problem there.
No, I agree.
We're driving out.
Yeah, in or out. Just
In or out.
once
I
once
think out is a
any of
challenge.
these cars, you know, 8'7" is not a whole lot
No.
to play with.
You know, on the initial special permit, the city or the board already had given them 5 spaces off of the requirement. Because in here it says the code requires 16, they were down to 11 with the agreement with the parking plan that
correct.
was approved.
That's correct.
And now it's almost like we're giving, if we vote in favor, 8 and 9 are very problematic on their parking proposal. It's like we're giving them another 2. You know, the city keeps, or the board keeps being asked to go back, and I don't see, you know, the proposed plan
We
is
get-
here.
Too far down discussion-wise. Let's keep it on point, because we still have to open up to the audience for any
Right.
additional questions. The, Mr. Mambachi, have you had any conversations with the building commissioner about obtaining a partial occupancy permit, where you could get partial occupancy of the building for some of the spaces you have that do work, so that you do get some revenue coming in until you figure out solutions to your parking problem?
Yes, so we had those types of conversations, and so obviously depending on where you guys land, we'll kind of determine what they want to do going forward. I think our target would be to try to get maybe 4 to 6 of the units online while we're trying to fix the rest of the lot, if that's kind of the way that we have to go. The other thing that we're hoping to do is, I mean, we do own other property in the area. We're hoping that if we could solicit other spots somewhere else, maybe we could solve for the parking without addressing the wall. But that's still a very big question mark depending on how much time we have to resolve the issue.
Okay. Anything else from the board at this point?
I'm good.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Does anybody have any concerns, comments, or either in favor of or opposition to this application? It's obviously the second time this application's being heard, so I just want to provide everybody the opportunity to speak, should they want to speak. Any representatives of the city who'd like to speak? Nobody? I'll ask one more time, any representatives of the city or anybody else in attendance this evening would like to speak with regard to this application? That being said, motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, we're gonna close the hearing. What is the desire of the board? Continue with a decision meeting, or,
I
yes?
think so.
Okay. All right, have a seat, Mr. Mambachi.
Okay. Thank you for your consideration. Thanks for your time, everybody. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming out and checking out the property on a Saturday. I know that was an icy day too, so I appreciate you guys making the trip.
The, okay, we've heard the case of Ms. Mambachi. I don't think I'll read the description again. I think we all agree about the 2 most problematic spaces are probably the ones along the driveway,
Yes.
I think, is probably the most problematic.
That's for the specific parking, but in general, it's, you know, the issue of, say, number 4, 5, 6, and relationship to number 7, looking at the city engineer's comments.
Correct.
So I think that that's also a consideration or a problem.
I think too, also, the reconfiguration of the lot does kind of adversely affect the snow storage as it was originally presented to the town, to the city.
Yeah, it'd be very, very tight.
And Dave, as you mentioned, the relief was already given for parking through the special permit process, which, you know, the board can do, because it's an existing dwelling. It's a rehab, there's some special language in the code. Any other comments?
None for me. I just have, I do, I mean, I just will reiterate a lot that's said. I have a lot of concerns about the parking in the entry line. I mean, I realize the difficulty of addressing the parking down below, but the limited access is something that I'm really struggling with. I
Yeah.
think that creates a lot of problems down in that area.
I think one of the bigger challenges of that, if they had to get an emergency vehicle for a fire or something down,
Absolutely.
it would impede access to the back part of the
I don't
lot.
see, you couldn't get back there.
I mean, I don't think there is sufficient room there to set up a tower truck or anything like that, but if they had some type of other situation. Dave?
Yeah, I agree with what you're mentioning, you know, and
I mean,
again, the city, the board has already given them, 5 spots. When you look, that's pretty significant to work with them. And to have this, much better, safer, thing approved, they made a mistake. Well, I'm wondering in a way, I know it's great what they're doing, but the city, for the safety of the people that are gonna live there. I'm concerned about that for the way that this is set up.
Okay. I do want to state, I think Mr. Bambachi and his staff need to be applauded for taking over
Oh,
such a
yes.
distressed property. They
Yes.
turned it into a really nice residence for a number of people. And as he mentioned, that there is a need for apartments
Oh, yes.
in town, in the city. And that's kind of what led my question about whether there's been discussions about a partial occupancy
Right.
until this all can be resolved. All right, so entertain a motion then to proceed with a vote?
Second,
I'm not gonna second it because.
You want, proceed to a vote, not a yes or no yet.
No, but if the applicant has mentioned some possibilities, do we want to give them an opportunity to possibly redo something?
Are you entertaining a condition that we don't have the 2-year, can't come back before the board for 2 years? That if there's a substantial, or a change to the plan as proposed, that he may come and petition the board again? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes. That they wouldn't have to wait 2 years.
I think there's some already language in there that if there's a substantial change
there is. There are ways to
do it, but
To do it
I
with
see
substantial.
I recognize your concern. I don't want to box the applicant in to say he can't come back before us if he comes up with some other solution.
Right.
Not sure how they do that without withdrawing.
Trying to think if we had, I wish Ray was here, we had a case once where I think we did. Where's Ray?
Well,
I think he's hovering outside. Yeah.
yeah, because I feel,
Yeah, Attorney Tree, help?
Under Chapter 48, Section 16, which is about repetitive petitions, in order to reconsider a negatively acted upon petition within 2 years, it's not only the permit granting authority, it is also the planning board. So that finding would have to be made here that it was substantially different, and you can do that. But then the planning board also has to approve the rehearing of the petition before 2 years. So if there's not a delay or a withdrawal, then that would have to happen before a rehearing could occur. Just information, if that's
Appreciate that,
helpful.
thank you. So I guess the choices are yes, no,
Or withdrawal.
or a withdrawal,
And withdrawal is up to the applicant.
without prejudice,
Without prejudice, and that's up to the applicant.
and that's up to the applicant.
Okay. Sounds like I should withdraw. Well, I understand the concern, and honestly, like, we put our best foot forward, what we're working with. We'll see if we can do something else, and see if we can present something otherwise we'll revert back to the original plan.
So is,
Just to offer, a board can waive the filing fees upon reapplication if it so wishes.
Yes, you can.
yes?
Yes, you can.
So in my understanding then, you're willing to withdraw your application without prejudice, and as long as the board waives its refiling fee?
I think that's fair. I appreciate the feedback, and we'll see if we can come up with something else.
Okay,
Okay, sounds like a plan. Motion to approve his withdrawal without prejudice.
so
And
moved.
waive the fee.
And a vote of the board that we would waive the fee if there's a reapplication.
Yep, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you, Mr. Bombachi.
Thank you.
Okay. Where's case number 2?
Thank you for your help.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just-
No, I'm glad you did.
Graham Street?
We're all trying to work together.
Get out of here as soon as
Pardon?
possible. Get out of here as soon as possible.
Unless you want to go
No,
right
I'm
into
not-
your Chapel Street.
Yeah, I'll make it clear about the potential conflict.
I knew the only way you could do it is withdraw. The only way they could do it is withdraw.
Or
When do you
make-
think
or
you're
you can
coming?
make a drive.
Me too.
No? Okay.
There's no way you could, that plan was terrible.
I'm scheduled for 7:30, but she was going to give me 10 minutes notice.
Okay, let's do Graham Street.
You ready?
Yeah,
Want me to do it?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the second case before us tonight is an application for a special permit at 20 Graham Street. The applicant is attorney Christine Tree for Robert J. Hayden and Sarah Carol Hayden of Canterbury Drive in Sudbury. Attorney Tree.
Good evening, gentlemen.
And by the way, Mr. LaFond is back as chairman.
I am.
Nice to see all of you again.
Randy, are you on this one?
I am.
Okay.
I am, yeah, that's correct. I am sitting on it as well as Mel Cornett. Give you a warning, I'm gonna get a 10 minutes notice to my meeting that I have, and it's probably gonna come about 7:20.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have to have a hard out of here by that time,
Okay,
okay?
this is our second hearing, so hopefully.
It should go quickly,
go
right?
quickly. So on those lines, just to check, I do have a PowerPoint presentation that I can put up that was kind of regarding the location of the accessory building, if you want to hear it. If you are satisfied after the inspection, then we'll
No, we're fine.
close
No, I
that.
think we're good. We're
Good.
good.
Okay. So we had our first hearing in January. We had a site viewing on January 24th. At the first hearing, we had presented all of the special permit criteria. This is a four-family that unfortunately suffered a fire, both prior to and after. There is an accessory building that was formerly used as a hair salon existing on site that was luckily not damaged by fire. That the owners are looking to convert into a fifth unit. The lot is undersized. It's about 8,300 square feet. 10,000 is required, and therefore it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and therefore we need a special permit to change or alter the use. The 5-family use is allowed in the COM1 district, so it is something that is permissible, and again, had already existed anyway prior to the fire in the application. Given the mix of bedrooms, there were 7 parking spaces that are required. The site really could not provide it at, I think, a maximum of 4 or 5. So my client had, and that's because they're single-bedroom or studio apartments as opposed to 2-bedroom or higher. The applicant purchased the vacant lot next door, where curiously another building had burned down about 10 years ago. And
Same fire?
different fire. Who knows how it's, no, we know how this fire started. It was a roofer.
I remember.
Yeah. But there's existing paving on that lot that is abutting. There is a means to access that lot without going out into the street, just a couple stairs on the corner, a step or two, and there is, as we saw in the site view, was marked out more than adequate space to provide the parking. I think 10 spaces took up about half of the length of the lot. There is a passageway, but the passageway does not interfere with the parking, and that was shown to you by the plans that have been on record for many years. So putting that all together, we do think this would be an appropriate expansion, given that this is entirely a multifamily neighborhood. The lowest unit count we found in a building was 2. And there are several larger multifamilies in the neighborhood. And we have provided more than adequate off-street parking for the expansion of the use. We do think that this is an appropriate candidate for the special permit to be granted and that last unit to be converted to a 5th dwelling unit. Thank you.
Set?
Thank you, Attorney Tree.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm otherwise all set.
Okay, all the board members have any questions of Attorney Tree?
No, I'm good.
I'll run it through quickly. Any abutters to the property who would like to make comments for or against? So I'll speed it up. Any abutters to the property like to speak for or against this application? Any interested parties who would like to speak for or against this application? Be it known there is no opposition or comments from either. Any representatives of the city to speak regarding this application? There are no representatives of the city at this time in this room. Okay, board members, one last shot if you have any questions or comments.
No, I'm good.
I would look,
Motion to close the hearing and move into a decision.
Second.
okay, any further discussion? No? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, you want to move to an approval?
Yes,
Okay, do I have a motion to render a decision approve or disapprove?
so moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of approving this request for a special permit for, I believe, 20 Graham Street, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No opposition, special permit granted.
Thank you very much, board members.
Okay, just take me a minute and we'll go to the next case. Because you'll be called out.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Attorney Tree. I just want to
Which one?
propose, at this point, Mr. Hagelin is going to probably be called out for his Zoom meeting, and he may be gone for a period of time. The next 2 cases that we have, Mr. Hagelin is part of it, and Mr. Antayer is not. The case I would like to move to is case 0302-2023, 48 Chapel Street. Now, the comment I'm going to make, and I'm going to say it's your decision and the applicant's decision. There are always perceptions that people, I won't say favoritism or conflicts of interest. I have known the applicant, actually, I know her dad very well, went to school with her dad. I've known her since she's been alive. And I worked with her on the Gardner House and how they got that going. I can say we can move forward if you're willing to accept myself, Mr. Cornett, Mr. Antaya as the 3 board members. I will do my best to stay impartial. So I'm going to let you make the call, and if you're uncomfortable, just just say so, and we'll wait for Mr. Hagelin to get back.
Mr. Chair, neither I nor my client has any personal discomfort with you serving in this capacity, but could we ask whether there is anybody here who wishes to speak in opposition to this petition? Okay. Seeing,
I'll just carry it a step further. Is anyone here who has opposition to me serving as the 3rd member on this case? So no opposition.
then we'd be happy to proceed.
And the applicant, you're comfortable with this, Stacy?
I am, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
then just let me get that file out.
I'll need to, this one I do, it's the first hearing, I would like to present the. And I'm just gonna note, if Mr. Hagelin does need to participate in a future vote, the PowerPoint is on file with the building secretary, so it can be reviewed later.
Yeah, I'll watch the video online too. Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Tree,
Okay,
floor is yours.
thank you, sir.
I want to make just one statement while you're prepping, getting ready. Is there anyone in here who has not signed in to this meeting tonight? Everybody has signed in? Okay.
Okay. I'm just. To connect. Here we go. Okay. Thank you, Mary Alice. All right, great.
And just for clarity, again, I will serve as chair on this. Mr. Cornett will be our clerk, and Mr. Antaya is our 3rd member.
Okay. Great, okay.
Ready?
So, gentlemen, thank you for hearing this petition tonight. This is a petition in 2 parts. The first part is a finding that the proposed use qualifies as an Airbnb under the table of uses. It's my understanding that we haven't really had this issue come up before, so we just wanted to make sure where there's no definition of Airbnb within the zoning ordinance that the use does qualify under that provision. If so, the use is allowed by special permit within the district. And then, so that is a finding. And then the second request is for a special permit, same as the last one, to alter a building to change the use of the building, which is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And that is because of a little shortage in the frontage on the property, front yard setback. So this is the Hunter Farm. It's located out on Chapel Street. And the owner is the a descendant of the long-term owners, the grandchild of Gladys and Hugh Hunter, who ran Hunter Farm Ice Cream Stand on the property from 1964 to 1984. That she is looking on this property, which is 25 acres. And although it does extend across several districts, on the portion that we're talking about is just in SFR1, okay? She is looking to rent the whole house on this property, the existing single-family home, under the Airbnb booking system. So that's what she's looking to
Now,
do.
when you say the whole house, that would be just one occupant, so to speak.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be multiple rentals.
No, it would not. So there are 4 bedrooms on the property, and although there's been a little interior updating and reworking that has been going on, that has been permitted and inspected, there is no plan to break it up into different bedroom units. If you're going to rent the house, you're going to rent the house as a whole. The house, as you can see from this photo, is over to the left, and then there is a little breezeway, and then there is a barn on the right. There are also a couple of outbuildings on the property. But the only thing that we're looking to do is really rent that house as a whole, as one unit.
Okay.
Okay?
And excuse me, and in the applicant, it said for a minimum period of 7 days.
So here I have to take a big mea culpa that you probably saw if you went to the end of the application. When we discussed this, the applicant clearly told me that it was a maximum 7-day rental. She put it in her business plan, and I read it as minimum. So it is maximum 7 days. However, the other part of that, which is that there must be a primary renter over the age of 25, that is part of her business plan. She is looking to cater really to families that are coming and either visiting the area, doing some leaf peeping or tourist attractions, maybe visiting students at college or at some of the local boarding schools, or visiting family in the area and want a little bit of a private space. She's not looking to make this a party house and is
Is
trying
a
not to.
minimum one night?
Yes, that's contemplation. It's not in operation, so she, of course, is looking to see what is the market going to bear. I'll just let you know there are at least 2 other Airbnbs listed online in Gardner, so they're certainly operating, even though they may not have gotten the permit to do so. But she is, I think, going to be the first one that's really like a full house farm, really an excellent location that caters to somebody that wants a really nice vacation in the area. So,
I'm going to ask one question. Because it's projected to be a maximum of 7 nights.
yes.
What is the answer going to be if a client comes in and says, I need to rent this for 10 days? Now, you're stating that it's going to be a maximum. So, well, I'm trying to be careful here because you're fully aware we can put conditions on this special permit.
Yes.
And if you say it's carved in stone, 7, we can put a condition and it'll be 7. That means you never, you got the client that says, I need 8, 10, you legally can't serve them.
No, we would have to come back to the board for a modification of the permit, or a modification of the conditions on the permit. So I'm going to ask my applicant. I don't know that she's thought that question through.
I haven't. I didn't know that that was a possibility.
Yeah, and see, I just want to make sure, as we move forward, that you don't box yourself in, because you're in this to rent it, and it's a business. And if a client comes in and says, I need 8 days, don't call me. It's just, so I want to make sure we have a full understanding.
What I would say is that the outside rental, the outside length of rental has to be 30 days. Because otherwise this is really a tenancy where you're basically renting a house to somebody who lives there. Right?
Exactly.
So the outside parameters of that have to stay within the 30 days. But I think there's some tolerance depending on what the board sees as measures that are necessary to mitigate against any concern with the neighbors, a possible condition on length of stay. As far as a minimum, I think that is a little bit more difficult to adjust to within the business plan. She's just gonna be opening up, and it might be you have people coming for the weekend. You might have people staying a night where they're visiting a relative at either an event or the hospital or something like that. So I think she needs a little more experience to see what the range is as far as the rental desirability, to get down to a minimum of 2 even at this point. So.
Yeah.
Two
And I-
night, two-night rental as a minimum?
I'm saying she needs more experience to know if that's acceptable within the business plan. But maximum rental, I think, anywhere between 14 and 30 days maximum rental shouldn't really impede her business plan.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned there's 2 Airbnbs in town now. But you also have the Colonial Hotel that somebody needs 10 days.
That's right.
They have an outlet
They
to
do.
go. Okay.
They also have an outlet for a one-night stay there and then be welcomed back into this Superior property. So, at any rate, that is the clientele that we're looking to attract to this rental property. And I do just want to emphasize, the owner is local. She lives in Templeton. Obviously, she is the manager of a business in Gardner. She's here every day, I think, pretty much. Maybe a couple days off. So she's not resident on the property, but she is local. Okay. And that's just a little look down the street there.
Are there any residents there now?
No.
No.
No. So, Mrs. Hunter passed away last year, I believe. Yes. Gladys Hunter, the applicant's grandmother. And since that time, the family had taken some time to settle the estate, work out what was going to happen. And Stacy presented the best possibility of the farm and the building being able to be kept as a unit, not divided up and sold or developed. And this is her way of, she already has a residence, so she's not looking to move there, but her way of generating some income to preserve this homestead.
What is the usage of the barn? Because it was connected, you had made mention.
So again, right now, there's no usage and the barn is not contemplated within what we're asking for. She has, however, been thinking about what she might do with the property to generate income. And the possible plans have included a country store in the barn. And that might be looked at as, I think it's called a convenience store use. Under the zoning ordinance, it is allowable by special permit. Something that I think is a little more difficult under zoning, but probably is more compatible with both the neighborhood and the use of the property, is as an occasional rental venue for smaller weddings and gatherings and birthday parties, family celebrations. And I think that, possibly between 50 and 75 person maximum would be permissible or would fit on the property, again, 25 acres. But I do want to make sure that that plan is well fleshed out, that we think about the impacts on the neighborhood, and we look at how we might address that use under the zoning ordinance. So those are the things that we've contemplated, but I'm not asking for permission for any of those tonight. So, okay. And just to, this is the overview of what the property is. It's about a 2,200 square foot single family home built in 1766 before zoning or before Gardner's existence as a town. and we talked about kind of the layout of the different districts that this parcel is in. There is a color zoning overlay map that is included within your package that does depict that. But the house is very clearly, and for a ways back from it, in SFR1. It's another look down the other side at the residential road. Again, this is the relief that we are requesting, the finding, and then the special permit. This is a little view of the entrance. The property is serviced by a horseshoe driveway. So there are two entrances into the property. So I just wanted to kind of give a little talk on what an Airbnb is. I don't know what your discomfort is with the use of the term Airbnb. Whenever I see a term that's not defined in the zoning ordinance, I always, gives me a little pause. And of course, we've had some changes going on so that this is the best form to resolve that question at the present time. So it's number 8 on the table of uses, and it says bed and breakfast, including Airbnb. Now, I take that to be two separate things, bed and breakfast and Airbnb, because otherwise there would be no purpose to including that language on the table of uses. But I do want to be clear that it is not a bed and breakfast. For one thing, there is not food being served there right now. And I don't know if the country store comes up, anything about that might change, but right now there's no food being served. And again, she's not resident on the property. What Airbnb is, and what we have to do is go to, the common usage of the term if we don't have a definition. It is an international listing and booking website for short-term rentals. The term short-term rentals does not appear anywhere in your ordinance, but it is the commonly used term right now for this kind of arrangement. The arrangement being not a tenancy, but a short-term stay that is booked through a third-party intermediary.
Now, have you defined short-term stay as to be less than 30 days?
Yes. And the reason that I do that is because that's what the state website says. In late 2018, with an effective date in 2019, which is, of course, the year before the world let loose, the state did adopt some regulations through the Department of Revenue regarding short-term rentals. And very specifically, what it did was it made it taxable under the rooms tax. So that's the state tax, and that's the local option tax as well. And then it also allowed cities and towns to regulate certain aspects of short-term rentals. Not the zoning, because I think that was already allowable, but things like licensing, if that was something the city or town want to do. So I'm going to encourage you either to adopt the state definition of what a short-term rental is as part of your regular interpretation of your zoning ordinance, which you can do as long as the interpretation is reasonable. But my shorthand for that would be a short-term rental available through an online booking website if we have to define Airbnb, which we do because we don't have any other term in your ordinance. And that's just a look at the right-hand structure of the structure from your the side. So you're looking at the side of the barn right now in this picture. And should anybody in the audience not be familiar with what Airbnb is, really, I think if you think of it as a weekly vacation rental, although I know it said it's not weekly, it could be by night, but a vacation rental, when you go to rent a house in Maine, you go to rent a house down on the Cape, it's really the same thing. It's just instead of using a realtor to book the site or looking at the ads in the newspaper, because I know that sometimes people would advertise that way, you're using an online website to locate the property and to secure the booking. This is the Massachusetts statute And it is Chapter 64G, Section 1, that contains the definition of what a short-term rental is. So it encompasses owner-occupied, tenant-occupied, or non-owner occupied. So it doesn't matter for purposes of the state statute whether or not the owner is residing in the property. And if you did want to look at, and I think this is for future consideration of changes in the ordinance, the section that allows local regulations, it would be section 14 under chapter 64G. So with the adoption of this provision, if the municipality has already adopted the local rooms tax, then that would apply to short-term rentals as well. And so this is a selection of some local towns. We have Athol, 6%, Fitchburg, 4%, Gardner is 4%, Leominster, 6%, and Lunenburg, 4%. And that information is from the Department of Local Services. Yep. So there is a benefit to the city other than just preserving the historic building, and there is going to be some income to the city with the success of Stacy's business. So we would ask that you find that this is an Airbnb under your ordinance. So, and I'm just going to check one thing. Yep. Okay. And ask that you grant the special permit for that. So with that being said, it's just another view. Again, the property is separate on either side from any of the structures that are near it. I wanted to look at this non-conforming structure issue. We have a front yard setback that's about 22 feet from the street. 30 is the required in the district. And what we're looking to get is a special permit to alter the property for a different purpose, or I guess, you know, when I look at this as a rent, it's really the rental of a house. It's just that the length of time has changed and that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Again, in my mind, it's really the length of stay, because you still have the 4-bedroom property, you still have it used as a single unit, and it's only that a different person might be there from time to time. I thought it would be interesting, just because the history of this property is very interesting, to know how the nonconformity came to be. Joseph Payson built his house in 1766. The town of Gardner organized in 1785, and then on November 14th of 1785, they took a vote to lay out the roads. The roads they thought first 2.5 rods wide, but then they thought 2 rods wide, which is about 33 feet. One of those roads, as you can see at the top, is the road leading from Joseph Payson's house. That's this house. And that was approved, but the city and town did not approve compensation to anybody whose land was taken because of the road. So, but we do think that at the time the road was laid out, the house pre-existed the road was laid down, and then we had a setback that was a little bit off. So I've given a written response on the special permit criteria. I'm going to go through a couple of them in the PowerPoint, and then I know the chair likes to just read through them, so we'll read through them at the end of the presentation. First, I wanted to talk about parking. So again, this is a view of the circular driveway from the left side entrance. You can see there is a ability for a car to pull up in front of the barn door there to get out of the way. And then this is the right side entrance. Okay. So that driveway is more than adequate to provide 3 parking spaces. It is pre-existing, and when we look at the parking ordinance, there is no Airbnb, but if we use the bed and breakfast category as we normally do, as the closest use, we come to 3 spaces. 3 spaces required. So there is conforming parking. I'm just going to say that on the right-hand side of the barn, there is a very large gravel parking lot that was used during the time it was an ice cream stand. A little bit of disrepair right now will probably need a little fixing in order to put it back into use again. But should any of those future uses come into play, or if there be, more parking needed because of the number of cars with the family, there is an outlet right there that is off-street parking. We think it'll provide between 30 and 40 spaces. So, just a look at the land again. That's the neighboring house, so that's kind of showing you the distance away from neighboring houses. Neighborhood character is something else that I wanted to go through. So this is a rural neighborhood. It consists primarily of single-family homes. There is one home-like housing facility operated for disabled persons by the Bridge of Central Mass, I believe it was. But the existing structure is long-standing. Because there are really no exterior modifications that are proposed at this time, it fits in with the character of the neighborhood because it was there before the rest of the neighborhood was built up around it. We would also just let you know that there is that existing sign that you see there that was actually made by Stacy's grandfather. There is no plan to put a new sign up. What there is a plan to do is to either restore or replicate the existing sign so that it's in a little better repair, but still it should look like that, should look maybe a little more securely attached. So, the existing lighting is really lights over the doorway entrances, so as you would see in a single-family home. And then there is one floodlight over the barn door that points downward towards the driveway. There's no plan to change the existing lighting. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you have clients coming in and it's dark, the existing light over the entryway into the house, is that going to be motion type that it will come on, or how will the light come on?
There are some provisions for alarming and surveillance of the property, and I think that the motion detector light is probably the way that that would go.
And we currently do have, the entrance does have a motion light. It was put in place when my grandmother lived there.
Okay. Don't want anybody wandering into the barn. Again, I just think it's kind of neat to look at the back of this property. You can see the remnants of the old structure there. One of the other purposes of zoning criteria is to match the purpose of zoning, meet with the master plan. And historic and agricultural preservation are one of the purposes of zoning. The generation of economic activity, as this would hopefully bring more tourism into the area, is also within the master plan. And so I did want to highlight a couple of historical facts here. Joseph Payson built the house. He was a member of the Boston Tea Party and participated in that event. He was also, and what you can see right there, in 2021, the Boston Tea Party Museum came down and put this commemorative medallion at his gravesite in Gardner. Very nice. They had a little ceremony for him. He was a Revolutionary War patriot. At the time of the Tea Party, he did live in Roxbury, but then he moved out here. He was also one of the original petitioners to create the town of Gardner. So he signed the petition that went to the state legislature to do that. I had a little bit of an interesting time reading the history. And one of the things that amazed me, because of course with the creation of Gardner, land was taken from all of the surrounding towns to create Gardner. None of the towns objected. They were all in favor. Thought it was unusually kind. And I hope for such actions to be equally cooperative in the future. And he was, at the first town meeting, he was appointed the Sealer of Leather. I don't know what that means, but he had an official job in the first administration here. He was a shoemaker and married 4 times, 8 children, died here in 1833. And by allowing this economic activity to support the house, what you'd be doing is preserving some of Gardner's very important history. This is a picture of the rear of the structure, just so you can see the wall back there. And this is just a little bit about the ice cream stand. So Gladys and Hugh Hunter decided to open an ice cream stand in 1962. This is a little write-up in the Gardner News after Hugh had passed away from his obituary. So this was, a big draw for the local neighborhood, both for employment and for obviously delicious ice cream.
It was good.
It was,
Best black
Yeah.
raspberry going, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. And what he talks about here is how he liked to make interesting flavors, including one time making beet ice cream, which he said looked beautiful but didn't taste good. And the two of them and the rest of their family, all of the family was involved in the operation of the ice cream stand. And it was a benefit to both the family and the town, and really a continuation of the previous agricultural use of this property in a traditional manner. And the interesting thing to me about this, as well as, Joseph Payson's activities there as a shoemaker previously and the farm's existence over decades and centuries, is that we are looking at this and it's kind of like bringing, there's an aspect where you can think, well, we're bringing a business operation into a residential district. Is that really the right thing to do? And I would say to you just very briefly that this property is really trying to carry on a tradition where home and business was the same. You had a home business that you and your family worked on, and the benefit of that went to preserve the property, and everybody in the neighborhood benefited from that. And that is why, as far as meeting the purpose of zoning, meeting the economic plan, fitting in with the neighborhood, and this being appropriate to the character, I think it's a good candidate for the special permit. That is the end of the slideshow presentation, and if you would like, I will read through the written answers to the questions. Okay.
On the use that is listed as an amenity, are they going to be able to cook?
There is a kitchen that does function, yes.
Okay. I didn't see it listed on the use or as an amenity. I didn't. That's why I'm asking.
So there were some like Wi-Fi, and I think laundry was also
Right.
listed. It should look and function as a single-family home, just one that you're only in temporarily. So going through the special permit criteria, the proposal shall be suitably located in the neighborhood and compatible with the neighborhood character, existing uses, and other uses permitted by right. So again, where this presents as a single-family home of long standing in a neighborhood of primarily single-family homes, we do think that it's going to fit in with the neighborhood. We have thought about certain protections to make sure that the property is not misused by renters. And like I said, that's no one under age 25 is the primary renter. And then there's also going to be surveillance on the property, and of course, Stacy is very local and responsive. to any concerns that might be had. Second criteria, the proposal shall provide convenient and safe vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relation to adjacent streets, property, and improvements. There is the two entrances for the horseshoe driveway, clearly marked of long standing. This is not a neighborhood where there's regular sidewalk pedestrian use, but there is also not going to be a lot of walking traffic generated by the use that's proposed. The proposal shall provide adequate space for off-street parking, loading and unloading of vehicles and goods. So again, horseshoe driveway will provide at least 3 spaces, and it is accessible enough to the entry of the house that unloading suitcases and paraphernalia for vacation should be not inconvenient. The proposal shall provide adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities for the proper operation of the proposed use and disposal of sewage. Again, this was functioning as a single-family home prior to the potential change. It is, and Stacy, just correct me if I'm misthinking this, it is serviced by public water and sewer? Yes. And therefore, the services are adequate. The proposal shall not constitute a nuisance due to air and water pollution, erosion, flood, noise, odor, dust, vibration, lights, or visually offensive structures. The only item in this category that this board might really be concerned with, I think, is noise, if a potential short-term occupant is loud. And again, we'd certainly be, we've offered some things that might be a condition to mitigate that happening. Certainly are willing to be open to any conditions that the board might consider to help in that category. The proposal shall not be a substantial inconvenience or hazard to abutters, vehicles, or pedestrians. Where there's no new entrances, there's no new traffic patterns being created. We don't think there's any traffic impact. You might have a couple more people driving down the road in a week. The proposal shall be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the chapter. We've gone through that this serves the purpose of preserving the historical and agricultural heritage of the community. The proposal shall not have a significant detrimental impact on city services, tax base, and employment. As I said, there is the potential for this to be revenue generating for the city through that rooms tax. I'm not saying Stacy's going to generate the income that the Colonial Hotel does, but it is at least a positive. I'm also going to state that you're not going to have a family and long-term residents there, which means there's no impact on the school system. So I would say that that is a net positive on the city overall. The proposal is consistent with the city's community development or master plan, and we did specify economic development policy 1A, which is to diversify Gardner's economy and increase local employment by encouraging and facilitating retention and expansion of Gardner's businesses. And we do look at this as a new source of tourism-related business in the city. That is all of the special permit criteria.
Question?
Absolutely.
How is she anticipating taking care of the trash that the people have or leave behind?
I don't know that there would be any difference as far as trash removal from the property from a single-family home. But as far as the clean-out, I think clean-out services are going to be provided directly after each resident leaves.
So are they taking the trash with them, the cleanup people, or are they gonna leave it? Or because, you know, she might not have a rental every week, so I'm just curious, the trash could be left by the house and not taken care of, so I was just wondering how that was gonna be addressed.
Where, again, Stacy is employed in the city of Gardner. At the beginning and end of every rental, she's going to be on the property, making sure that it's either prepared for the new renters or cleaned up after the old renters have left. That will mean that any refuse, should there be any trash blowing around or anything like that that they've carelessly left, will be gathered together and put into the municipal barrels that are already on property.
So the city will be picking it up,
Yes,
which is, you know, part of the normal tax process.
right.
Okay, thank you.
I certainly have some resources if anybody has questions about anything, and if Stacy has anything she'd like to add, but I don't think so.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
And this, I think, is just to set it before I open it up to the audience and hit these issues. I first had down about lighting. You did address that, but I think definitely it would have to be motion lighting on any entrances into the house, you know. Not so much at the barn, but if you put one there, that's fine. Codes. You've got electrical codes, plumbing codes, building codes. The house has been vacant for some time. You're now going to have clients coming in and using it. So I think one of the conditions, if we do approve this, would be you'll have to bring in the appropriate municipal individuals to go over those codes to make sure everything is up to code. And you want to make sure for the safety of any clients that are going to be there. And everything will be fine. Signage. I saw the sign. I've seen it for a long time. It's been battered by the weather, storm, etc. I don't know what the dimensions of the sign are. Gardner has a sign ordinance for a certain size. If that sign is beyond the dimensions, if you just take it down, now you have to meet the municipal dimensions that currently exist.
So,
But let me finish my
okay.
statement.
okay.
However, if for any reason the sign is damaged and it has to be repaired or replaced, then that does not have to meet the signage. But I'm just, forewarning you because it happened to a big commercial business in town. And I mean a large sign, and they wanted to take it down. And when the commissioner said, no, you have to meet the existing signage, it was like taking 10 steps backwards. So that was what he told me, of if it's damaged, they can replace it. We talked about debris, we talked about lighting. David's question, can they cook in the house, in the facility? It does have cooking potential,
Yes.
okay. In that parcel where the gravel parking lot is, the picture in the package is clear that there's bricks down, stones. It definitely needs to be cleaned up or tidied up and everything, because you may have kids playing or cars going in there, and you don't want somebody to get hurt, especially the kids playing, because they'll jump off the wall and things like that. In the back, you got quite a bit of land in behind your house, behind the house. Are you planning to put anything in, like little trails or paths or anything like that, so they can walk around?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to know. And my last one, how many fireplaces in that house, Stacy?
Currently 2.
Are they gonna be operational for the clients that come in? So they will not be able to put up sit in the living room and enjoy a fire at night or something like that. All right, so if the board does look favorably, that could be a condition that they would have to be rendered inoperable. So you want to just, from the safety standpoint, with a fireplace.
I think putting a decorative blocking in front of the fireplace would probably do that job.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying when I say inoperable, I'm not that you somehow close it off or fill it with cement.
No.
You can put a permanent facing on that they can't get in, but should you choose to move back into that house, you could just take it off and it would be there. So I'll add this one little thing because it wasn't brought up. Stacy's grandfather, Hugh, actually was a member of this board when I first joined this board. And he served for quite a while and made some great impacts in the city, and he was a big contributor to the city. So,
His obituary listed the zoning board, the planning board, the city council, and several other boards that I can't remember. He was definitely an active person.
yeah, so you should be honored. Okay, that takes care of my questions, and like I said, some of them could end up as conditions.
Okay.
And I'll open first to my members, Dave and Mel.
No,
Any additional questions?
No, I think we've asked them all.
presentation very well done.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the floor now. Are there any abutters who would like to speak in favor of this application? Any abutters who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please state your name and address.
Louise Plamondon, 39 Chapel Street. I live right across the street from the Hunter's Farm. I think it's a great idea. One thing I'm concerned about is if there are families, are the children going to be under control? If in the families that are coming in, are they going to be staying on that property or running across the street and going up and down the street? That would be one concern. And with relation to this being a historic place, right around the corner on Carter Road, there's an old schoolhouse that was preserved for many, many years, and now it's in disrepair. But that would be so nice if that could be restored, and you have this historic place, then this old schoolhouse on Carter Road. I think would be great. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Plamondon, you could talk to your city councilor about restoring that schoolhouse, but your point is well taken. And just another fact, where the Hill Farm is, in the back, you probably know where I'm going,
With cemetery?
there's a cemetery back there
Yeah.
of a number of stones of people who died either from influenza or some kind of disease, but were not allowed to be buried in the municipal cemetery.
Yeah.
It's in the back, and not too many people find it anymore. But, and your first comment, yeah, that's a concern, but kids are kids, so the parents hopefully are gonna keep their eye on them. But if you're coming in, if they're visiting for college or something special, I'm hoping they keep them under control. And, fortunately, it's not a heavily trafficked road, Chapel Street, but it still can be dangerous if they're
Yeah.
running wild. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll have a comment. If we do vote for it, they'll comment about unruliness and everything with the youngsters and everything else.
Oh, also, the traffic on that street tends to go pretty fast at times, too. Now, it didn't before, but it is pretty fast now. It's dangerous, I think.
Any other butters would like to speak in favor of this application? Any other butters like to speak in favor of? Any butters would like to speak in opposition to this application? Any abutters would like to speak in opposition? Any interested parties to speak either in favor or in opposition? Mr. Beauregard?
Mr. Chairman, Trevor Beauregard, Director of Community Development Planning for the city, and former customer of Hunter Farm. I can't remember what my favorite ice cream was, but I know I used to feed the animals, and it was really cool. But I want to speak in favor of this project. I think it's a great idea, and I hope you're successful.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Are there any other interested parties who like to speak in favor or against?
I just want to note that Councillor Judy Mack did submit a very nice letter in support
Yeah,
of
and I'm going to pull that out because I want to read that. Any questions from you gentlemen?
No, I'm good.
Yes. All right, just bear with me till I get Judy Mack's, Councilor Mack's letter. took a little longer because our administrative assistant has done a new little approach to categorizing things for us, and this is really the first meeting that we've got it, so we've got to get used to where the things are. All right, this letter is dated March 18th, 2023. Gardner Zoning Board of Appeals, 115 Pleasant Street, Room 103, Gardner, Mass. Dear Chairman LaFawn and board members, unfortunately, I am unable to attend the meeting scheduled for March 21, 2023, in regards to 48 Chapel Street as an abutter, but would like to offer a written response. The property at 48 Chapel Street, also known as Hunter's Farm, has been a long-established family home. The previous owners, the late Gladys and Hugh Hunter, proudly brought up their 5 children and ran the Hunter Farm ice cream stand on the property for many years. Those of you who grew up in Gardner fondly remember this. I worked for Mr. Hunter and Mrs. Hunter the summer prior to the ice cream business closing in 1984. Their granddaughter, Stacy Kozinskis, is restoring the property to open it as a vacation rental. It is quite admirable that she is investing in her family's legacy and finding a way not only to keep the property in the family, to operate it as a small vacation rental. As a vacation rental, it would offer visitors of the area, whether it be for weddings, seasonal events such as skiing, or family gatherings, an alternative to staying at a hotel or with relatives. As an abutter, I fully support this application before you and the efforts of Ms. Kozinskis to turn the property zoning to business. Oftentimes today, we don't realize the sentimental importance is much more valuable than what we could have done by the Hunter family with residential houses. With the amount of acreage which was to sell it to a developer for residential houses, taken away from what the farm was meant to be. Without a doubt, Gladys, excuse me, and you, Hunter, would be proud that their family home that was built in 1766 will continue to welcome others to the Gardner community they loved. Sincerely, Judy A. Mack, 28 Chapel Street, Gardner, Mass. 01440. Well, that's the letter of support from the counselor. And I'll open it up one more to you, gentlemen, if you have any questions.
All right.
Okay. I think Attorney Tree, I think I would like to come out and take a quick view on this. I mean, I know the house fairly well, but it's been many years since I've been there. And I think it'll give us a good first-hand look at what Stacy's talking about, what she's looking at doing, and give us insight. Just one thought I had, because the barn was brought up. It does have an opportunity to add to this Airbnb as a retail store, a little, go-to for milk, cigarettes, etc., but also for the character and the age with artifacts, etc. So it's a historical piece to look at. It's just something to consider if it goes that far.
I think local products, handcrafted goods, as well as some convenience items are what really the thought is with the store.
Okay. Are you gentlemen okay with going to view
Oh,
it?
yeah, I'd like to.
Okay. What is the best day for you, Stacy? Or an Attorney Tree can be there also, so, to view it.
I actually would like to see the house after, or the inside.
What day is good for you guys? Good for Saturday?
Pardon?
Which Saturday?
This one coming?
No,
I can't go
not here.
this Saturday.
How about during the week?
During the week, next week, Monday on, it should be okay.
I think I'll be okay.
Huh?
I think I'll be okay.
Okay. Why don't we do this, Attorney Tree? We'll contact Mariella, and we'll try to get it in within a week to get there.
Sounds good, thank
The
you.
good thing, none of us are working, so we don't have to worry about that.
Every day is Saturday.
Good thing for you.
Okay?
Are you
So-
trying for Monday, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I want you to look at your calendar, and then we'll contact Mariella. And I'm not gonna close the hearing, but we're gonna keep it over till we do the viewing and everything else, so I'm not closing it. I'll just say this meeting is, we can move forward, and I'll call the next case, and you can stay if you wish, or you can leave.
Thank you very much, board members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your assistance earlier.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So am I all done, Mr. Chairman? Am I all done?
Well, you don't want to stay?
I'm still sweating from the first one. That was very good. Randy.
Okay, so we've taken care of
Take a short recess while you organize yourself.
it. Yeah, why don't, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
Did it really?
Taking a 5-minute. Okay. The next case before the board is case 11012022. It's a continuance. It's special permit for Dimitru.
What he said.
I'm gonna try Ian Kulescu.
Yankulescu, that is
Yeah,
close enough.
let's-
Pretty close. For 63 Walnut Street.
Is it all right if we both stand up here? Because we're
Absolutely.
gonna need two of us to match
Absolutely.
what happened before this. You did such a good job.
And it was denied by the building commissioner because it does not comply with chapter 675, 1.1, table of uses, number 5, multifamily dwelling in the city of Gardner. It said needs a special permit because you're in GR3 zoning. That's general residential.
Yeah.
So, we did meet. You had, I hate to say it, you had minimal information when we met. And we
First
had
time.
a site visit, and we talked about different issues, water, drainage, the back wall, et cetera, and you said we'll come up with a plan and everything, so the floor is yours to present it to the board.
Okay, just to remind a bit about the project. So this is,
Excuse me, could you move that down just a little? I can't see it.
Yeah, move the whole
on the
thing
board.
to right about where you were standing.
sure.
Great.
It's okay?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, and if you want, I'm just gonna say angle it a little bit so any of the audience, what, perfect.
Okay. So we're talking about a commercial building which is vacant for the past, I guess, 5 years, maybe more. We got it a couple of years ago. We're trying to find the purpose of it. So the only thing we can come up with that makes sense is to convert that to residential. So we're trying to put 7 apartments in there, 1-bedroom apartments. And we tried, and hopefully we meet all the criterias for the special permit for it, regarding parking, regarding lighting. So we went one by one our last meeting. And thank you for finding time to come to do the site visit. The thing that we know that we have to address, and it's about the draining the water that will come off of the roof. So we'll find a solution for that. We'll submit it to your building permit, to your building department for approval. One of your engineer will look at it, and once.
Have you gotten any feedback from them?
No, not yet, but we didn't put too much effort into that direction at this point because it was snow. Winter is still here, so we plan to do that in the following month. So once we pass this point, we'll apply for the building permit, if past this point, of course, and then.
Yeah, it's, if possible, when you submit like your drain plan,
Yeah.
and you give it to the building commissioner, just make sure that Mariola includes us on it, because if he has it and we don't see it, then it's hard for us to consider and visualize what you're doing or what's gonna be done, because if he says it's okay, we don't know what okay is at this point, and see if there's any impact, et cetera.
Sure.
And same thing with the bulging wall in the back, if you're having something done. So what is your plan? Are you hiring somebody who, what are they gonna do? That type of thing. So, you copy him and copy us,
Okay,
so we can see that,
we will do.
okay? Now, you know, the city is without a full-time building commissioner right now. A search is on. We have a part-time building commissioner who actually is serving another community at the same time, so he's splitting his time between the two. So, I mean,
You know that.
So we did not know that. So you're talking about Roland, was he the building commissioner?
Roland,
Yeah.
he's not anymore.
So he's moving out.
So
Okay.
he has left the employment here. So it's gonna slow things down a little bit. If you get plans, like for your water, for drainage, or that wall, even though you've got to submit it, get a copy to us, so we can at least take a look at it. So,
Understand.
because I'm not gonna close your hearing tonight. I need to see those, we need to see those plans and everything, so the quicker you get them to us.
Our understanding was that we don't have to submit anything at this point. We just put that as a condition in our.
Yeah. Well, see, I didn't know you submitted anything at all, if you have submitted anything.
We didn't. but-
No, we have not. No.
Okay.
When we had talked out on the site, you had said that, you know, you would like to see it, but it wasn't mandatory to see it at this point, that it would be seen later.
Yeah.
But
when
we
were there-
knew that there was gonna be a condition saying, we need to address it, especially the drainage off to the left.
Yeah, and I think at the inspection, I said to you, if you hire somebody or get some plans and everything, you'll get them to us so we can take a look at them, and we can run them by the appropriate individuals to look at them, to make sure they're adequate, et cetera. But you said, don't worry, we're gonna take care with the plans. So that still leaves us on the outside, you know, and
So you
that's,
just want it beforehand. You want it done prior to any approval
Yeah,
of
it's
this.
actually number 4 of the responses for the special permit. It says, provide adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities for the proper operation of proposed use and disposal of sewage and refuse and other waste products, which you've addressed that because it's connected to public sewer, and methods of drainage of surface water. That's the key thing.
that's the key one.
Okay.
In this case. Can you remind me, on the left-hand side, there's that easement. That's for the rear property? Is that what that was for?
This one here,
Yeah,
Probably.
it's a parcel here that belongs to our neighbor that's in the back,
got it.
but it's all wooded.
Yeah, I remember it's not
It's
undeveloped.
landlocked.
It's landlocked. Okay, so the easement is for the benefit of the property in the back.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been used. I mean, it's not really even cleared, the whole easement.
Yeah,
Most
it's
of this
pretty.
is trees in
Yeah,
here.
it's pretty rough.
Rough and wet when we were
And
there,
wet, yeah.
really wet.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned at site visit that you were gonna approach the individual, because you said even when you look out the back of your property, you look at all this debris that's coming down this hill, trees, trash.
We had talked to him a couple of years ago, and he has been kind of infilling that lot up slowly while we haven't been watching. So we're gonna, we'll talk to him. I think he's pretty amenable to helping clean up, because he helped us a couple of years ago when we first bought it to just move some trees around and clean up what a mess the parking lot was. It's cleaner than it was.
Well, if you make some positive headway, I mean, you can send a memo to us and saying regarding the back, here's what we're doing. We can't force you to clean up his property, but I'm sure you want to have that property looking decent.
We're
just for you.
definitely gonna work with him to do
And
that.
you don't
for
want
sure. And-
his
and-
trees falling
And
on
we share the
vehicles.
other easement with him
Yeah.
over here,
Yeah,
because he's got back here, and he's got over here, so this whole area is partially his visible spot.
and there were several trees that weren't exactly horizontal to the land.
Yeah,
They had a lean to them.
yeah, they're coming down.
I mean vertical. They're more horizontal than
Yeah,
vertical.
oh,
Yes,
getting
they are.
closer to horizontal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we want to know. We got to see, otherwise we'll have to go back out there. But, so it helps feed it to us quickly and,
Okay.
yeah, and what we can do when you say, you know, the trees have been removed, whatever, we can just have Mariella contact you and say, unofficially, you don't have to be there. We can just drive by, look in there and see it ourselves, you know, just so it doesn't tie people up. But if you give us the approval to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So you can continue on your, how many apartments?
7.
7.
7 one-bedrooms.
Well, I think definitely we're gonna need some additional information before we can move forward, but, so we got the 7 apartments. There's not too many people here, but the only individual in the audience there's two individuals that may have a comment. Two others are applicants, but they have the right to voice a comment as an interested party. But any abutters here who would like to speak for or against? No abutters to speak. Any city officials who would like to speak regarding this application? Mr. Beauregard, Community Development Planning.
Trevor Beauregard, Director of Community Development Planning for the city. Just one question, how many parking spaces are you gonna be creating on site?
So at this point, we have here 8 spaces if you include this one here. So there are 7 places in the back of the building. So 1 per apartment, that's per court.
Okay. Thank you.
Are they detailed on that plan?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on this one too.
Oh, okay. I didn't open that up. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You have any other comments or questions, Mel, Randy? I think we need more information.
Yeah, the concern always gets back to the movement of the surface water. And we voiced that when we were there, and we definitely need a lot more information on that.
Yeah,
That's
and I
done.
remember saying that, you can't direct it towards your neighbor's property, because then it becomes his problem.
I remember there was a catch basin.
Yeah, they already
Yeah,
have.
and we mentioned there's a catch basin, so it could
And
be
something
some,
was done with that water at one point, because they got the gravel set up,
Tied in.
it's just not working, so that has to be corrected. So,
well, I'm gonna ask to continue this to next month. Do you think you'll be able to have that information by April, I don't know, was it 18th or something like that?
yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think things we would like to see is what the solution is to the water, what's going to happen with the trees that are almost horizontal, and what's going to happen with that wall to shore it up for safety, because it significantly has a bulge in it. And any changes in soil, freezing, unfreezing, frost heaves, it could push it down.
That was a timber wall, wasn't it? Was it just a timber?
Yeah, it's just,
Like a railroad tie
it's
kind of thing?
Yeah, it's coming down, I mean, beyond that, do you want us to actually do the work and get it done, or
Who's,
you just wanna know that it's
is
gonna
it
happen?
your property or is it's yours, your wall?
Yeah,
That's
the wall
on-
is on our
That's on
property.
our property. It's-
Well, I can give you, to answer your question, we can leave it open and say you will fix it within 6 months. And we can give you a date and a deadline, because we don't want to see, if you get to the water, and that's going to take 2 or 3 months to fix, and now you've only got a month left to fix that wall, you know what I'm saying? So if you come back and say, we'll have it all repaired by X date, then we'll have it inspected by that date. Otherwise, we can give you a timeline. If you came back and say, we've spoken to several contractors, and it's going to take 4 months to fix this, there's the timeline we can set for you, to make sure it can happen. But we definitely will check on it. But we just won't leave it open and say, you're gonna fix it, and we're not gonna just say, okay.
We put a
Because
timeline on
now
it.
we've just opened it up to infinity.
Yeah.
Same with the trees? Same with the trees, or you want those down?
I mean, that's a different question, because if they're not on your property, but I think you need to tell us how, if it's sending a notice of letter to your butter, or what, working with your butter to stabilize them, do whatever, I think, but
Yeah, we'll
where,
contact him, but
We'll talk to him this month, and we'll have answers.
but where it's, they're hanging
we'll
over,
get-
if a
and
car's,
we'll-
I wouldn't want my car parked there and all of a sudden have, one of them come over.
Yeah, we
That's-
can't force you to say you're gonna do this and the property's not even yours.
It's not yours, you can't deal,
But I think you're concerned because
make due
it's a safety
diligence, I
issue.
think, to do it, due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see what due diligence you can do and then keep us in the loop of what's happening,
Okay.
and we can look at that.
So you want us to bring like a letter from him saying, kind of, we're agreeing to do some of this?
Hey, if he says, yes, I'm open to, you can take care of the trees, boom, boom, you get a letter signed from him, and I'm gonna say notarized, because we don't know his signature,
Yeah.
and then it comes in, and I'd say, we've got the okay, we're gonna move on this in the next 6 months, clean it up,
Okay.
and then we can look at that, but, it's just how much, he'll say he wants to play ball.
exactly. So if he's not playing ball, what do you do?
If he's not playing ball, we can't hold your feet to the fire for his property. But, I mean, he should consider, we'll call them the horizontal trees. If they fall on a car, it's his insurance that's gonna pay for it. You know, or if somebody gets hurt,
No,
no?
no. You know, I think they can go the route and, you know, check with your attorney, but I think you can go to the route that if it's hanging over your property, you can cut
You can
the portion
cut
that's
it all
hanging
you
over
want.
your property.
Yes, you can.
Right. But you just don't want somebody to have it fall, they're there, they get hurt, or even cause damage.
Especially when you knew about it. I mean,
Yeah.
could be a problem.
Okay.
So you can meet with them, and you can probably fill this in by the next meeting.
Yeah.
And if you get some data ahead, you can feed it to Mariella, and so we have a chance to review it before the meeting is held, so we'll know what's coming,
Okay,
okay?
all right. So those three items, the trees, the wall, and the drainage.
Site drainage.
Other big ones for you.
Yes.
Those are the big ones.
All right.
Because you've addressed the lighting, you've addressed snow storage, trash dumpster location, so those items are all.
Yep, you've got adequate parking. So right now, those are the three major issues.
Okay.
And I don't, when I say right now, it's not like we're holding some back. Those are the major issues that we're looking at,
Okay, we'll take care of it.
okay? Do I hear a motion to continue this to next month?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, comments?
No.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, we're continuing your case to next month.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Opportunities?
I have one, thank you.
Okay. Next case before the board. Case 03-01-2023. Special permit, Alan Belanger, 0 Manka Drive, storage pods serving as individual storage units. The storage pods placed on a parcel will be accessed from Manka Drive. And I just want to read now why it was denied. Says your application to construct mobile storage units at Manka Drive, parcel B, Gardner, Mass., parcel ID M17-19-1, located in the Industrial 1 zoning district, is denied as it does not comply with Chapter 675 of Attachment 1 of the City Code of Gardner. The table of uses state that your requested number 91 temporary storage unit in place for more than 90 calendar days requires a special permit issued by the Gardner Zoning Board of Appeals. And that's what you were denied under. So, Mr. Marchetti, you're going to be presenting to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, my name is Brian Marchetti. I'm a registered civil engineer in the state of Massachusetts with McCarty Engineering. I'm here today on behalf of Al Belanger, the manager of Western East Storage. So Al purchased this property, it's a little over 9 acres at the end of Manka Drive. The parcel's all the way at the western end. It's bounded by undeveloped property to the west, to the north, and to the east, and but to Manka Drive to the south. So it's this full parcel here. Like as I said, a little over 9 acres. There's a wetland resource area located on the property. There is a perennial stream on the far eastern edge of the property. So the majority of
the far western edge and along the frontage of Manka Drive is the developable upland area on the parcel. As you read in that notice from the building inspector, this is it's actually in the Industrial 2 district. And what we're here before you today is to try to permit with you a mobile storage pod facility. I just have a colored rendering here so you can kind of understand and see better what we're looking to do. The building inspector said in his denial that it is only allowed with a special permit with the ZBA. Additionally, I wanted to call your attention to section 564.1 in your zoning bylaws, which is for temporary storage units. It says restrictions on temporary storage units do not apply to industrial areas, industrial uses in areas of the city zoned for industrial purposes. So as this is within the Industrial 2 district, it's our position that that temporary restriction on storage units does not apply to this particular property.
Now, can you define for me what you are using for temporary? Is there going to be a limit to how long anyone can store on that property?
No, the way these units are, they're not anchored down, they're not on foundations. So they're basically crushed stone pads are built. And Al brings in one unit at a time, and they're located adjacent to each other on the property. They could be here for, I guess, any period of time. The way Al operates today out of his other facilities, he basically buys them, brings them in, rents them out, and as the need allows, he brings more in. So it's likely what would happen here is, we would probably phase the development, start with one branch of it, and then build the rest of it as.
As the use, as I understand it now, is it could be temporary or it could be long-term.
Yes, yeah, it could be, yes. And the idea here is a long-term facility.
So,
To build the infrastructure, to build the stormwater, the pavement, to get this whole thing constructed, it's not a short-term use. This is intended to be a long-term facility.
It's a different source of structure instead of your typical storage building, if you will.
It's gonna
I
be
buy
pods.
Connex boxes, I buy them brand new. You put them on and they stay.
So people aren't moving pods in, the pods exist and they're just gonna be, so it's basically the same as any storage unit.
It's basically a storage
Except
building, except
Yeah.
they're individual pods that are
okay, so
stacked.
that was my confusion with the term pod,
Mhm.
being familiar with the company that I think they call pods.
Well, I also do
Where the-
deliveries to private property, like my 20-foot units or my 40s.
So you'll bring a unit onto somebody's property, they will load it, and you come pick it up and take it away.
No, they keep it there. I do not move any pods or containers with items in it. They can use it on their site. When they're done with it, I go get it. I bring it to my other yard, not this yard.
So you're gonna place a pod here and people rent it the same as any other storage
That's
facility
right.
around?
Instead of a building, it's a Connex
Yeah. I
ground
use
storage container.
I use the term pod in this application because we came from Fitchburg, and there was a lot of confusion when we were proposing in Fitchburg, and they kept referencing it as pods, and that's how they understood it. But these are Connex boxes, they're storage containers, they're
Okay.
not mobile pods that are picked up and moved like
So
a
this
pod
They're
is.
not all
standard
wheels.
40-foot
That's what-
storage
when my-
containers or
my-
something
When I
like
heard
that?
pod, that's what
20
my
by-
mind was.
Yeah.
Are they all the same size, 20 or 40?
20s and 40s.
Yeah, so you can see here the shorter units, these are 20s, and we
20s and
located
40s.
the 20s where we couldn't fit the 40s. The 40s are more desirable units according to his business plan and what he typically rents. But because of the location, the geometry, and how we're confined because of the wetland resource areas on the site, 20s fit in some locations.
Why do individual Connex boxes versus a conventional building with overhead doors that people, similar, I mean, What, is there an advantage to this? Is there a tax advantage? You don't pay on a dwelling, or?
You're still paying personal property tax. We're not getting away from not paying taxes. I do it from a cash flow standpoint, because I can go in and develop a pad of stone, and I can put a unit down, and I'm collecting rent the next day. It's a major undertaking to do this all in buildings. And those buildings aren't as tight as a Connex box. For instance, rodents, mice, things of that nature. You don't get them in these boxes. You will get them in regular storage. The roll-up doors, they sneak right in all the time. It's a fact, you know?
Are these your normal containers that you see in shipping overseas?
Come over on a ship.
Yes. that's what I
Again, we
thought.
only buy new. I go to New Jersey, off the docks, I get them. I bring them in myself, I set them in place.
I'm familiar. I used to be in a supply chain. I used to buy them. That's why I ask.
Is that right?
You do anything, are they multicolored, are they, you paint them
No.
all one color, or what do you do?
I painted 42 containers to make them all look gray, and I've refused to paint anymore, so I buy them new. And a container that is new, it's crisp, it's clean, it looks good. I have gray, beige, and a reddish brown color, but they're all new, and it looks nice.
Now, do they have the
I can buy used ones.
Marine Shippers logo on the side too?
No. No. These are what we call one-trippers. The majority of containers are built overseas. They load them, they ship them here, but they don't want them back. The docks, all your docks end up with excess containers.
Okay, I have a question. Other than those storage units, is there any other activity on that parcel at all? Any other business going? Is it just raw land?
It's raw land right now, it's completely undeveloped.
Okay, so now you were denied under item 91, which says temporary storage units placed for more than 90 days. But that's also under the heading of accessory uses. So if you're telling me there's nothing else going on that property, it's just property. So what is this accessory to?
Well, when we met with Roland to discuss this, there was nowhere else in the zoning bylaws where this use fit.
Well, I'm looking at here at,
Storage fits in industrial. It's an
I'm looking
industrial
at accessory uses, now starting at 83 and going down to 91, which he denied you under. But it's under accessory uses. If there's no other business, no activity going on, it's not accessory to anything. And then also you address chapter 564, because there's no active use going on this parcel, it's vacant land. And you go down to 564-4, it states only one temporary storage unit may be placed on a property at any time. The building commission may grant an exemption, but that's not what he did. So it's just saying that only one is allowed. And you're talking 150, 147. And it's on an accessory parcel, there's nothing it's accessory to.
And it could be greater than 90 days.
And your quote in your presentation was missing one key word, I thought. It says, this chapter shall not apply to active. And the word active wasn't included in your presentation. Active industrial uses and areas.
I'm just gonna add one thing to that. The wording in the ordinance in chapter 564 talks about a storage unit, singular. Your presentation is 147 units, which is not singular. And I know you said Roland denied you under that, but I think the board may not fully agree what he denied you under. Because we're looking at, I'm looking at it in black and white. And he looked at it in black and white, but I can't answer why he said that, but
It's more of a commercial or a business.
yeah, if there was a commercial
use.
business going on in parts of that or whatever, we might have a different situation, but it's not, it's an inactive site vacant land, and 564-1 says this chapter shall not apply to active industrial uses. There's no active industrial use going on.
Is storage allowed in an industrial?
So we originally,
But it is.
It is, right?
It can be. It's not a yes, no. It can be.
It
So-
can't-
As an accessory use.
when,
As
well, when
an
we.
accessory use.
When we first sat down with Roland, section 76 under industrial uses, warehousing and storage facilities, including storage in the open, in the industrial two is, it says P, so it's permitted.
Permissible.
And the, we filed, this took 6 or 8 months before we got a letter back from him. He kept going back and forth with, well, what is the storage? It's not a building. So when it says storage and storage facilities, so warehouse and storage facilities, he was interpreting facilities as a building with foundations, which this isn't. And they're individual units, so finally he came down to the
Doesn't pigeonhole into any one particular.
it doesn't, it was very open-ended, and I guess, you know, we kind of went with him pointing us in the direction of
Understand.
individual storage units, so, I mean,
But,
you know.
you know, I go back to the ordinance, and the code is very clear. It talks in the singular, not in the plural. And now he may look at it from the plural, but as I said, 147 is more than a singular unit. And it's on an inactive site with no other activity going. So, I mean, I'm looking at 2 sections here, and I probably will ask, you know, Mr. Beauregard just to give a little insight from the community development planning end, because he's very familiar with chapter 564. You know, it's sitting in here, and but I'll see if you have any additional comments before I open it up to the floor and to my members.
I guess my question is self-storage a permitted use?
It can be.
It can be, okay, it can be. So the question is if it can be, is there a restriction between a Connex box and an actual self-storage building?
I
That
think
seems-
it goes back to Mr. Belanger is the unit. The ordinance is clear. 1, talks about a unit, if it's gonna be 90 days or whatever. But it also talks of active and passive sites. This is a very passive site. Now, your answer to your question, can we put them permanently? Yes, somewhere. Not here.
So the definition, right, it says temporary storage unit
And it's singular.
is defined as a reusable vessel having interior dimensions of less than 200 cubic feet, you know, and so on. But then up in the conditions, 564-1, it says temporary storage units, plural, are allowed by right if used for not more than 60 days, subject to the submission of an application and fees set herein. All temporary storage units must comply with the guidelines prescribed in this chapter. So it doesn't specifically, it defines a unit and what a unit is, but I don't see
Well, I
how.
don't think it's asking to define what a unit is. We're talking about a unit. It has some size dimensions. You know, it doesn't tell you about color, height, depth,
Yeah.
et cetera. It's talking in a quantity, 1. So you could have a unit that's 3 by 3, or you might have a unit that's 13 by 15. It's still a unit. But this talks about 1. And I'm saying the board probably does not fully agree how Roland declined to. So I'm gonna just, if you want, I'm gonna ask Mr. Beauregard just to give a little insight, because he works with this a lot. Trevor, you wanna come up front, please? And now the board doesn't want to put you on the spot. We just want
That's fine.
to make sure, get a clarification if we're incorrect, and I don't think we are. But I want to make sure and be fair to the applicants at the same time.
Yeah, I think the chairman's been accurate in his assessment, in my opinion. You know, the code 564 states only one temporary storage container can go on a lot. You were approved, well, you were denied as an accessory use, which that's clearly not an accessory use, it's a primary use. So I think it's inconsistent. Not sure if there was an oversight by the building commissioner or how that happened, but yeah, in the singular plural, I have to agree to the accessory units, it mentions unit as one. And I think that's what the true definition meaning was of that section within the zoning code. It is, self-storage is, you read it right, it's allowed, I mean, under industrial, under number 76, by right, in industrial too, so I'm not quite sure why.
When we applied,
Yeah,
we never got a letter of denial. We applied an application to come here, and we were told you can't do that without a letter of denial. We then got a letter of denial, and he whipped it together for us, the building inspector. So is it categorically wrong? Sounds that way.
is what category?
Talking about the temporary as an accessory use. It's not an accessory use we're looking for, by any means.
Right, and that's what you got denied under, that's why
And I,
not clear to me why. But for my opinion, I don't think more than one temporary storage unit can be placed on a lot. I'm not the zoning enforcement officer. I'm the city planner.
And also, your letter of denial was not signed by Roland. It was signed by the city clerk.
Huh?
And she is stating that it's denied. Now, what's the date?
That's for the application. That's the transmittal for the
Yeah,
application.
no, Roland-
It's denied,
Roland
yes,
signed it.
okay.
Roland signed it. Roland.
That's, I mean, that's my interpretation, that's how I see it. I don't, again,
So if we file this as a storage facility, who makes the determination that this doesn't constitute as a storage facility?
that
If
would
it's
be-
permitted
that would-
by right.
That would be the building commissioner.
See, what we do is we either uphold or deny based on the info he feeds
that's
us.
right, we're barking up the wrong tree here, obviously.
You don't disagree with the
So I did,
determination of the building commissioner?
I did meet with your coworker at one point, probably a few months back,
Mhm.
Justin, I think,
Yep.
with Roland, and we had this discussion on this plan. And Roland's strong opinion was that as a storage facility under number 76, it would have to meet building code, and something like this would not meet building code. That was his biggest concern. That's the last time I heard of it, until I got a ZBA package sent to my office, and I reviewed it, and then, okay. And that's, and then the day I received that, the building commissioner resigned, so I didn't have a chance to discuss it with him, unfortunately.
And I think part of it too, and you said it just in your presentation right now, we don't tell you what building code, you're saying it's put on compacted gravel or whatever. Now, does the building code allow that? I don't know, that becomes the building commissioner do that, or is there anything out of planning that says, no, it must be on permanent pads? That's not our jurisdiction. So that would be between the commissioner and if you have to go for a site plan review, then it goes under his bailiwick.
But the building commissioner still has a say as part of the process.
I guess was through your discussion with Roland, Trevor, he denied them under temporary storage unit in place for more than 90 days. Did he call it temporary storage unit or temporary storage? Was he interpreting the word temporary? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
You know, I don't either.
Yeah, we can't guess what he said.
But it's, I mean, it's
I don't
pretty
know.
clear in the zoning code what it says. I mean, it's
Whereas
black and
a
white.
person is temporarily storing their goods in their unit.
It's temporary, they don't own it.
So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
You're distorting it, I think, a little bit.
Yeah,
You're looking
they
too
might
far
be
in your
temporarily
No, I-
storing, but it's a storage unit that they're putting it in. It's
Yeah.
just not in a box that's sitting out there.
Yeah.
So I think we withdraw our application because we're clearly barking up the wrong tree here without prejudice. Pull it. We're gonna resubmit to the building department, and if he wants structure, then we'll put tubes under these things, and we'll make him a permanent structure. Period. If that's gonna make him happy. Then he's gonna deny us, but then we'll see what he's got to say then. Period.
Because you're gonna go back to the building
I
commissioner,
have to.
or a building commissioner.
Somebody who's
Yeah,
in
and I
charge.
think, Mr. Belanger, you've probably hit it on the head, because I say you're, because there is some ambiguity here. I mean, we're looking what the ordinance says, 1 year. You have your options. The first one is not the best one, we can deny it because we say this is wrong. That means 2 years you have to wait.
Yeah, no, withdraw.
You can say, continue this, we're gonna talk to somebody, or withdraw your application without prejudice, allows you to do some homework back there, and if you choose to reapply, you have that right, and you'll be right back before the building commissioner. But I think we've put some items on the table, and I'm only gonna suggest this, you may wanna consult legal counsel to try and get a clarity here. And look at it from that way, but I think that's really part of it. And I do have a letter from Bob Oliver. He is doing some work over there already, basic about drainage. And,
His comment was that it's likely gonna have to go to site plan review, and
Yeah.
he'll take a deep dive into the drainage calcs.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you move forward with a project,
trying to see what the hell
they're not temporary storage units, because you can only put one on. If you do move forward with a project, it's gonna need site plan review. And I would also suggest that you're gonna need parking on site. If you don't wanna put parking on site, it's gonna be some type of zoning relief thing, because the amount of square footage you have there, I know your clients to come on and off the site, you don't necessarily need parking, but per the square footage of your floor area, I think it falls under warehousing or something, that you need a certain amount of parking on site,
That's why we put 30-foot rows in between to give plenty of room.
so.
I'm going to read you, Mr. Oliver. This is from, it's addressed to me, Chairman ZBA. Carbon copy, Mariella Negron, Administrative Coordinator, from Robert Oliver, City Engineer, dated March 21, 2023. Subject, 0 Manka Drive Special Permit App. This project requires a stormwater management permit under City Code, Chapter 565, Stormwater Management. To date, I have conducted an initial review of the special permit application, specifically the stormwater management design. As I believe this project will require site plan review with the planning board, I will conduct a full review of the site design and stormwater system at that time, along with the concurrent review of the stormwater management permit. I have no other comment on the special permit application at this time. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. So, I mean, that has been raised by the city engineer.
And we tend to fully address that.
Yeah, and
Complete
that,
drainage stuff with it. We know we gotta do
the
that.
complete drainage report was filed.
Yep.
And it complies with the town Indian.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just putting what he said it's gonna need. That really is not our issue. You know,
Is there gonna be a permanent structure on here? Such as a building for
It was
maintenance
not
or?
going to be.
There's no permanent structure whatsoever.
No office, they're all individual, they don't require utilities. He has a solar light above all the
So
doors.
if somebody wants access to their unit, it's free and unfettered?
These are gated, so both entrances are locked
Okay.
and
There's
gated.
hours, they can't go in certain
So he has
hours.
contracts that everybody who rents his units from him signs to and agrees to.
Yeah.
But
So
they
this
don't-
is not gonna be like the one they're constructing on 68 just before Hubbardston Center.
No, those are.
Permanent.
Yeah, they're permanent. They're on frost walls, they pour slab, they're tin. And we got a company out of Georgia that will come up and build that all day long. It don't take them long either. But
Just keep writing the checks.
pretty much, it's a lot more money than a Connex
Sure.
box, and they're not built as well
Understand.
by any stretch. We've got 100 and something in Westminster right now. They work fine. They don't move in the frost. We don't have any troubles with them at all. It's like any other storage facility.
Yeah, I think, what we have to do is interpret the ordinance and what it says, et cetera, and then, it becomes back to you of how you want to handle it. Either we vote one way or the other, you withdraw, and you also hire an attorney if you want to look at that, but those are your choices or options.
How accessible is the stand-in building inspector?
I can't answer that.
Does he work certain hours a week here, or
don't
do we
know.
know?
We're trying to find that out.
So,
He's just been appointed to become acting, or interim, I should say,
Yeah.
interim. The search is on for a permanent building commissioner.
I'm not sure.
Perhaps you can leave your contact information with Mariella, and she can relay the message to them, and he can contact him
And
when
maybe,
he is here.
I'm not saying maybe, we can ask him to give you a call. And he'll have the number, and probably call you, Brian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we put the ball sort of back in his court to make the call, and then you can meet forward, but if you choose and you sit to withdraw, then tonight is the night to do it.
I think we're barking up the wrong tree. We were hoping that note on that, talking about industrial use, it was gonna be okay, but because it's supposed to be just an accessory use, it doesn't apply that way.
Yeah, and it's right under the accessory uses.
Unfortunately, it's not an active industrial use, it's just vacant land, so you can't, it's not justifiable.
Well, the thought is self-storage is allowed in industrial, so it's an industrial use.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm
So,
withdrawing.
What would you like to
Without
do?
prejudice. I'm withdrawing.
So your request is to withdraw your application
Absolutely, I don't,
with,
unless you think we should do something different.
with or without prejudice?
Yeah, without prejudice.
He said,
Do I hear a motion to accept the request to withdraw this without prejudice?
so moved.
Second.
Withdrawing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Granted.
Half a win.
You only had to be here for 2.5 hours to find that out. I'm sorry it's happened, but I mean, it's easy to say it is what it is, but, we're interpreting what we see in black and white.
Well, at the end of the day, when it goes, it goes. If it don't, it don't.
Well,
So,
it should be right, so that, should it be appealed or something, it's defensible.
Yeah. And that would be your option. If we declined, you'd have to appeal to the courts that cost you money and cost time.
Or an abutter or anybody.
Yeah.
it's not a Gardner issue, it's a everywhere issue. It's not a permanent structure. I have to address that if I wanna use these
You said you
units.
went to Fitchburg, how did they handle it?
They didn't want Connex boxes because, and it was commercial and it was allowed, they didn't like the look of it. So they made me build a 10-bay unit. Make it look like a garage, because I already have a 4-car garage and a residential section. So they wanted it to be all uniform.
So basically built a storage building.
Where's your location in Westminster?
Rotier Drive.
What is it?
Rotier Drive.
Rotier Drive?
You know where the Pine Tree Power is?
Off of 31.
Off of 31.
Yeah, okay.
I own everything up on the hill. So It's an industrial park.
Is that where UPS used to be? Is that where UPS used to be, up in that?
You're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place.
Before the railroad bridge?
No.
All right, I'm going to ask if you want to discuss Fitchburg with somebody else, because I want to move this on.
Oh, you got most, okay, sorry.
I got, that's okay,
I'm going-
because we got minutes to approve, and
Can I go home now?
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Mariella, I have a question for you. All the minutes that are in here, have these been approved, or they all need approval?
Some have been approved, some haven't, but I put them all together because right now we won't remember which ones because I had to have everyone sign them. Once they read them and they were actually, when they approved it, they said, okay, this is great, I'm gonna approve it. So I required the
Let's
signature.
just revote 'em.
Signature.
It'd be just
Yeah,
as easy. to
and
revote.
if we don't know, then just, we were going to revote them all.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to start. Okay, these are the board minutes for the December 20th, 2022 meeting. We had Harbor Classic Homes on Clark Street. It was order of remand. Do I hear a motion? I mean, I don't want to go through every one of these. Why don't I go over them and then,
Just the date. Just do the dates.
The dates, yeah.
I'll make a motion to, David signed off on it. I didn't sign that case, but I'll make a motion to approve that. We said December what?
December 20th.
20th,
yeah.
2022.
Here's another one. This one is
Second.
All those in favor?
July,
Aye.
Aye.
July 19th, 2022. Everybody has signed already. They've reviewed.
Yep, we make a motion to approve the minutes dated July 22nd, 2022.
Second.
July 19th, 2022.
I second it.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody.
This one is the minutes, October 18th, 22. It's been signed by everyone. And these are the cases that we heard that night.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes dated October 17th, you said?
18th.
2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. This one is dated October 20th, it's a decision meeting. And it was on the Clark Street order of remand.
Make a motion, to approve the minutes as written.
And this is them all signed, reviewed, okay? Need a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approved. This one is dated November 15th, 2022. I'm making a correction, it says 23. It's all been signed.
This is the minutes of,
Yeah, the minutes of January 17th, 2023. And in there is the cases of Clark Street, Walnut Street, Broadway, Wireless Facility, Graham Street, Kinzer, and 163, 165 Pine Street.
make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Subject to member Cornett signing. them.
Mr. Cornett signing.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. There's the minutes of a site visit, January 24th, 2023. Site visit was Graham Street, Walnut Street. And it's just really a recap of what we saw that day. Everybody has signed.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the site visit, January 24th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. This one has been signed by everybody. And minutes, public meeting, September 7th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for the meeting on September 7th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. And these are minutes, October 29th, 2022. It's a site visit, Yale Street, School Street, Clark Street. Mr. Antaya has signed it, myself and Mr. Cornett need to sign.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the site visit for October 29th, 2022. I didn't sit on the case, but it's subject to the two remaining members signing the minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved, unanimous. Mr. Cornett and I are currently signing. Okay, so that takes care of the minutes. There's no correspondence. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
meeting adjourned
9:07
at
PM.
9:07.